Hi, this is Paul Morris, and you're listening to The Sirens of Audio.
They seek him here, they seek him there. Those Frenchies seek him everywhere. Is he in heaven? Is he in hell? That damned elusive Pimpernel.
Doctor, come back at once.
G'day audiophiles, this is the Sirens of Audio, the podcast devoted to Doctor Who in the audio medium. My name is Dwayne and with me is...
It's Philip. Hey Dwayne, how are you going?
Mate, I'm really good. It's been a really exciting week in terms of Big Finish, hasn't it? It's 4 releases in the last, 2 or 3 days?
Yes, I've not been able to keep up with them all. It's been too much for me.
It's been absolutely insane. We've had 2 monthly releases. We've had Plight of the Pimpernel and The Grey Man of the Mountain. Those 2, plus another 2 Time Lord Victorious ones, an 8th Doctor and a 4th Doctor Time Lord Victorious. So Genetics of the Daleks is the 4th Doctor one. Very, very exciting stuff. What have you heard out of those 4 so far?
I've heard the 2 monthlies. So I've heard what we're talking about tonight with our guest, and I've also just finished listening on the way home the Flight of the Pimpernel.
Excellent. Plight of the Pimpernel it is.
I said Flight, isn't it?
It's Plight, isn't it?
Oh, Plight.
Am I reading it wrong?
I don't know. I thought it was Flight. I could be wrong.
I thought it was Plight with a P.
Oh, no, it is Plight.
Excellent. There's something for the blooper reel.
Okay, so yeah, it is Plight. I think I need new glasses. Like, I'm still looking at it thinking, still looks a bit like Flight to me.
One thing I did too, after listening to these 2 Time Lord Victorious CDs, I have managed to listen to them all.
Oh, you've done nothing else, have you?
No, nothing at all. No, I was doing a lot of gardening yesterday, so I was cutting up a big tree that had grown too big, so I was lopping off branches of a tree, and that's how I was listening to most of this stuff yesterday. And Time Lord Victorious, interesting. I actually... You know how guys have a tendency to never read the instructions? That's what I was doing with Time Lord Victorious. I decided, okay, well, hang on. It's getting a little bit confusing, a little bit all over the place. I'm going to go to the Time Lord Victorious website and have a look. Did you know that there's actually a list of stories there in all the various media listing the story order of everything?
Yes, I did know that.
So that's all we need to do. If we're getting confused, just go and check the story order. Find out the release order as well, because they're not releasing the stories in order, but once we get everything, it's going to be, it's going to make a lot more sense. So I like genetics of the Daleks. It's leading us into the rabbit hole that is the virtual game. So it leads us up to that point. It's like a prequel to the game that is part of the Time Lord Victorious series. I can't remember where that is now. Is it in London? Is it in Wales? Not sure.
Quite possibly. Well, I listen to Tom Baker read the phone directory, so I'm happy with anything.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The Grey Man of the Mountain.
So, what are you doing in this exciting part of the world?
Ben McDooey. The mountain? Rumoured to be haunted.
5 people have come down that mountain in the past month. Panicked and delusional.
It's still following us. There's a shadow in the mist. Don't look back.
2 more have gone missing. Mountain Rescue can't find them.
Whatever's on that mountain can kill.
We can't see through the mist, so we imagine what's out there. What's watching us. What's waiting for us to make the wrong step.
If something happens out there, there's no one to help you. You know what we heard.
You haven't seen it yet. You can still get away.
Where is it? I can't see anything. Help!
Whatever you do, don't look at their faces.
You made your choice.
Get back, Brigadier. Whatever you do, don't look at his face.
Big Finish. We love stories.
Joining us from sunny Scotland is Lizbeth Miles. She's the writer of one of this month's Big Finish stories, The Grey Man on the Mountain, and podcaster too, fellow podcaster from the Verity podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited and not the least bit nervous to be here, obviously.
Of course, there's no need to be nervous at all, so that's a good thing. So welcome. It's great chatting with you. We've really enjoyed hearing your story, but we'll get into that a bit later. Let's just start in terms of what's your connection with Doctor Who?
I've been a Doctor Who fan since I was a very small person. My mum is a Doctor Who fan, and she's watched it from the very beginning. But she, when I was born, it had just gone off the air, more or less. But then it started coming out on VHS, so she decided to gift her small child Sontaran Experiment in Genesis of the Daleks, which I think was out in 91, 92, to me, and I watched it over and over again, and this now became an easy birthday or Christmas present to get me. So I began to accumulate Doctor Who VHS and collected them all through the 90s and early 2000s, and watched all the classic series like that, and joined, I don't know if there's a sort of thing, but I was in online Doctor Who fandom from about 1999. And I don't know if anyone listening knows this where this was, but a lot of the part I lurked on the Radwell lists and was on Outpost Gallifrey, but mostly I was on LiveJournal, where many of the female Doctor Who fans of the time hung out and wrote very nice stories about Doctor Who. Until everything sort of blew up in 2005, and it became a giant fandom of many people in all the places.
So what do you think about the new series? Do you still consider you as a classic person, or the new series, or they all blend together?
Oh, I love this new series, but I am one of those dreadful people who's like, it's not dreadful, it's because the classic series is what I grew up with. So I always have like a special shiny place in my heart for classic Who. And, if I had to pick one, much as it hurts, because I do adore it, and there are bits of it that I do, to my horror, love more than bits of classic Who, which was very difficult for me to accept at first. But I adore classic Who, and I very much like the new series.
Now, lots of women came into the show with the new series, and I guess the classic I guess the majority of fans were probably more male with the classic, but with the new series, I think it's a lot more equal, males and females. What was it like being a female with the classic series before all the other women joined in?
I think actually it depends on where you were. I know in America there are an awful lot of female fans, and certainly when Tom Baker was making appearances at conventions, I've seen photographs in American conventions of a large number of female fans very happy in the audience at his appearance for some reason. But yeah, it was. This is why I was in sort of the LiveJournal community, which was a part of fandom for a very long time, for about 10 years, from the early 2000s to the early 2010s, where a lot of female fans and communities were, and it went from being like a regular community of a few dozen people to multiple ones of thousands of people, which was interesting. Massive social changes and shifts going on there, and bringing all these weird new ideas of fandom into Doctor Who, which at that point obviously was quite an old fandom. And then suddenly for a lot of people it was still an old fandom, and then for the majority it was a shiny new fandom that they didn't have that to them that was, the first series of Eccleston was the first series of Doctor Who, which I could be frustrating as a fan of classic Who, because it's like, has happened before, but it doesn't matter because it happened like 40 years beforehand. So it's a bit, kind of I don't know. There was a sort of slight culture clash at first, but I think it evened out fairly quickly, and it was a lot of fun. And one of my favorite things in Doctor Who fandom is seeing having new Who fans go back and discover the classic series and end up having all these shiny new perspectives on it. And suddenly people were appreciating the Time Monster a lot more. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Join the club. We will get this rising up the rankings together. Soon everyone will appreciate it properly. And I will get my Eagle Moss figure of Kronos. But yeah, so it was the question was actually what it was like. It was on the internet mostly, because I was very young. I was in my teenage years and occasionally lying about my age. So it wasn't terribly noticeable. I think it was most noticeable when shifting from Doctor Who fandom to any newer fandom, because sort of what was considered normal, or what aspect of things were discussed, or even like how fan fiction was written, was rather different. But I wanted to talk about Doctor Who, and so I hung out where the Doctor Who stuff was happening.
Do you want to just tell us a bit about, because you've got that lovely Scottish accent, which you probably don't even realise you have. Do you want to tell us a bit about where you grew up and where you are now?
Oh, I've ended up in sort of vaguely the same area. I grew up in the southwest of Scotland. I currently live in the southwest of Scotland. It's always been very rural places I've mostly lived. Cities are lovely. I lived in Edinburgh for a while, and that was beautiful and fantastic. And I keep thinking that I'd like to go back there at some point. But moving is incredibly stressful and stuff. And obviously, the world is not a very movable place right now with stuff going on. There's a lot of sheep. There's a lot of grass. There's severe lack of public transport. It's very pretty, so I'm told. There's nice views and nice walks and all that stuff that lots of people seem to really love. But when you have it every day, you just stop appreciating it.
Well, I love Scotland.
Okay.
Because my mother was born in Glasgow, so all her family were Scottish, and then when they moved out here to Australia, and then my grandfather was very broad Glaswegian accent, and I used to translate for him.
Oh, that's brilliant! Yes, so, my grandparents are very broad West Coast, to such an extent that a friend of mine who was traveling around here for, oh gosh, what are they doing? They're doing some sort of article about The Wicker Man, which was filmed around here. And they were staying at a hotel right out in the West Coast. And they assumed that people were speaking Gaelic because they couldn't understand a word. And it was like, no, it's just a very strong Scottish accent. We don't speak Gaelic here. And it's just, yeah.
That was my grandfather. People couldn't understand a word he said. He'd say something, and then I'd translate to the shopkeeper. And
I have a close, well, not connection, but I have a love of Scotland as well, from a band that I've been obsessed with since I was a kid, from Dunfermline near Edinburgh, called Big Country. And I've been to Scotland only once, and my wife has never been interested in going to Scotland until we recently binge watched Outlander, and now she wants to go and visit all the locations of Outlander. So thank you, Outlander. I can finally get my wife to Scotland.
I feel I should be really judging Outlander, but the thing is, I think it looks beautiful, and making Scotland look that pretty and colourful is something that you don't really see often.
A dirty lie.
It usually is a very desolate beauty you get on film, and then for Outlander to give it such vibrancy was like, oh, this is so nice. And it does this wonderful balancing act between romanticizing the past and acknowledging how bloody awful it was in so many ways, which I think is marvelous. And also I edited Diana Gabaldon once, who I'm sure you know named her main character Jamie Fraser after Fraser Hines and Jamie. So I'm like, yeah, well, I can't be judging that, because she probably sold some books for that essay collection because of her name being in it. So I unashamedly actually love Outlander, despite feeling like I should be judging it.
I had no idea about that connection with Fraser Hines and Jamie Fraser. Is that a fact?
Well, yes. Oh my gosh, she's a huge Jamie fan. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's why Fraser Hines, he's in the series for an episode, and that's partly because of that. Like, he's the inspiration for.
I wonder if I can
reading
suddenly
there.
get my wife to watch Doctor Who with me on that basis. But somehow, no, Philip shaking his head. I agree with you, Philip. It's not going to happen.
Love your wife for who she is and don't try and make her watch Doctor Who.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So you've mentioned you were writing in terms of Doctor Who fandom. So is that how you started writing? Is that how your passion came about?
Yeah, pretty much. I wrote. When did I find fan fiction? It was like in my mid-teens, and it was an accident. I think it was Deep Space Nine fandom that got me to it by a circular route. I can't remember exactly what I was searching for at the time, but I know it was like unexpected, and I was like, "What is this? People write stories that did not happen on television." So then I quickly found Doctor Who fan fiction and started reading it, and eventually thought, I could write some of this. People say nice things about the writing, that kind of appealed. So yeah, I was writing Doctor Who fan fiction for I don't know, about 10 years or something. I'm very sad that I stopped. I'm not entirely sure why I did. It's sort of, I shall admit that this year in the lockdown, one of the things I did start doing again was writing fan fiction again, not Doctor Who stuff, but it was I found it very sort of stress relief doing some writing that nobody was going to judge me for, not judge me for, but it wasn't, you know, it was very self-indulgent rather than I am writing to a spec and I have got to, you know, an editor will look at this and if it's terrible, they will say so. Whereas this could be terrible and it's like, I'm doing it for fun. It doesn't matter. I can just
I have to
relax
tell
and
you
make words happen.
that some people will judge you for your fan fiction, won't they, Philip? I was talking to Philip about some of my fan fiction last time, and I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't get a positive vibe off Philip from my story
Why would
ideas.
you do that?
Well,
Someone's creative soul.
He hasn't shared any of his writing yet. He was just giving me some of the background information.
I just untied the noose today.
Wow. That's it's a beautiful thing, and it's so many writers. It's their sort of there's nothing wrong obviously with doing it just purely for fun, you know. People don't, just because you paint randomly for fun doesn't mean people expect you to become a professional artist. So I get very
exactly.
I get a bit annoyed at the idea that it's practice when no, it's a whole different ballpark type thing. But it does have this enormous freedom and a very supportive and lovely community. At least that was for me. And that gave me like the confidence to you know, do more or want to do it.
How did you connect with Big Finish start?
The very first thing I had published for them was a very long time ago now. It was...
was it the Benny Summerfield?
No, it was Doctor Who. It was... I'm trying to remember sort of the year. I'd been 21, I think. And there was a short trips competition. And this is when they were doing those lovely little books, the hardback books, that were the ones after the 3 BBC ones. And Simon Guerrier was running it. And it was How the Doctor Changed My Life was the theme of it. And I wrote a story, I sent it in. I did not win, but I did get an email back that a bunch of us, about a dozen of us did, which said, "You did not win. However, the quality of X amount of stories was so good that we're doing, instead of just publishing one story in this book, we're publishing a whole book of these stories that is all just first-time writers who have not been paid for their work before." So that was it. It was a Fourth Doctor and Romana story. And I believe when I met Simon, the reason he published it, I'm not entirely sure it was the quality of the writing so much as the concept made him laugh. It was alien children coming to Earth and taking over teddy bears and dolls in a toy shop to break in next door to the sweetie shop and steal sweets. And the Doctor and Romana had to stop their evil plan, which was essentially that alien kids mucking up stuff. So for some reason he found that very funny, hence that. But I didn't do anything for years and years after that. And I think it probably was a Benny Summerfield's first thing after that. My memory's not great. Deb on Verity asked me about all this stuff recently, and I believe for some of them I said something like, "Did I? I don't remember doing that," which is like, yay.
I didn't have the short trips down, but I did have Present Danger down as your first story.
That would have been the second thing then. That was terrible. Don't ever read it. I think I remember This is a terrible confession. I'm sure it's fine because it's many years ago now, but I'd never read or listened to any Benny Summerfield before that. I just said, yeah, sure. And then I binged a bunch of stuff over 2 days, and I don't think it helped me in any way. I think it was terrible.
Okay,
God bless them for publishing it anyway.
I'm going to pull out that book tonight and read that short story.
Oh God, no!
It's on my bookshelf.
If anything, it will just give hope to anyone that they can be paid for their writing, frankly.
Yeah. So, what in terms of when you're not writing for Big Finish, what have you been doing before?
Some of the stuff in that's worrying how long ago it is now. Maybe about 10 years ago now, it was there was a series of books that came out from Mad Norwegian Press. Mad Norwegian Press do a bunch of sort of tie-in non-fiction stuff. The one offhand I can remember is the Rob Shearman's X-Files thingy, and more recently Running Through Corridors with Toby Hadoke and Rob Shearman. And these, I've forgotten what their big giant Doctor Who ones are called, even though I have them on the shelf about 2 meters away, but there's a large box blocking the way, so I can't actually see what they're called and sneakily pretend I know what I'm talking about. But yes, they started a book that was pitched by 2 friends of mine, Lynn Thomas and Tara O'Shea, about, because, as I said, Doctor Who, suddenly all these women were in Doctor Who fandom. So these were essay anthologies written by women about various aspects of Doctor Who fandom and how they interacted with it. And they were meant to just show not just about new Who fans, but classic Who fans, and sort of a sense of the breadth of female fan experience, which was at the time being horribly stereotyped in a bunch of ways that was basically annoying a lot of fans. So a lot of professional authors or critics or writers of various descriptions were wrote essays for it, and I tricked them into letting me do one, which was obviously a brilliant plan, because then I got to edit 2 of those books in that range. I edited one with Deb Stanish, who's also on the Verity podcast, and one with Liz Barr, who is another Australian, not from Tasmania, alas, but an Indian podcaster, except her podcast is a Star Trek one. Filthy Star Trek. I'm joking. I love Star Trek. Not all Star Trek, not TNG, obviously. I'm not one. I'm DS9, original series. That was fun. I got to edit things. Oh, one of them got a Hugo nomination. That was quite cool. And then I didn't do very much stuff that was going anywhere until I got my more recent Big Finishy goodness things. I think I did one in the interim. But yeah.
You did the 2014. You did the Breaking Bubbles.
So I did.
Perry.
Yes. That was okay. That wasn't terrible. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm really selling my own stuff here, I can tell.
Well, all writers I know. So there's something about writers that they feel like they need to be down on themselves.
For everything.
Yeah. Oh dear. Now you also did a short story because Breaking Bubbles was the first audio play you did.
Yes.
So had you been writing other stuff for other places for audios, or was?
No, they just foolishly let me do that. Johnny Morris, who's the editor, was looking for. It was his last output as the editor of, I think it was the 6th Doctor range he was doing. I can't remember exactly how that was particularly organised. It must have been the 6th Doctor range. And for his last one, he wanted to do new voices, in the sense people who had never written for the main range before. And he was struggling to find someone, because he also wanted more women to be writing for it. And so a mutual friend recommended me based on my writing, which was very, very nice and kind of her. And then Johnny, for some reason, decided to just not actually check that my writing was okay, but just say, hey, that'll be fine. How badly wrong can it go? It's only 25 minutes. I'm sure those were not his exact words, but that's vaguely what I remember my feeling being. But yeah, that was really fun and exciting and cool, trying a new thing. Possibly not the best sort of way to go about it, I don't know. But mostly what I remember is I had this horrible, horrible fever the week that I was writing it. And so I was wrapped up in blankets and propped into my desk chair when I should probably have been in bed whilst I was burning up, but I was absolutely terrified of missing my deadline. because this is like, oh my gosh, it's Big Finish. It's a very proper thing here. I've loved this stuff for 15 years. I mustn't do anything wrong. So yeah, that.
So this year, at the start of this year, you did your the first River Song story,
Yes.
which was quite amusing and funny. That's the Abbey one, isn't it? With her as a nun.
Yes, there are nuns. They're all nuns.
River makes the perfect nun, as you would expect. So was that the longest piece of audio you'd written at that stage, or when did you write this?
Yes. Don't remember exactly when I wrote it. It would have been last year sometime. I think that was out this year, right?
January this year. Yep.
Yes. I'm sorry. Time has gone weird, as I'm sure you've.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah. So I'd have written that last year. Yes, is that right? Oh gosh, my memory's going badly here because I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 years ago with. But yes. So that was via Matt Fitton, who got convinced into letting me pitch for it, and wasn't horrified by it, which was rather lovely, and wasn't horrified enough that he keeps giving me work now, which is rather nice and kind of him. So yeah, that was what was there's the pitch for it. The brief for it was River Song murder mysteries, and my favorite murder mystery type things are Cadfile. So I wanted to do basically River Song as Cadfile. Yeah, so it was in my head, the sort of like next town along is Shrewsbury, with Derek Jacobi hanging out, investigating mysteries, and that's totally where River popped off to at the end, to assist Cadfile in a mystery. In my head, that might not actually be canonical, which is very sad. But,
I'm sure it is.
You also had a first with Big Finish. You had the opportunity to write the first 12th Doctor story, didn't you?
Yes, I did. That was really cool. I have no idea. This is the answer to a lot of what happened. How did you get that? So I really have no idea. Alfie Shaw just emailed me to ask, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think he might have been going through people who'd written for Big Finish before, but they'd only written one thing or something. I don't know. I never thought to ask. I should probably do that. It was a very tight brief for that one. It's just like, would you like to 12th Doctor? We would like a historical. No, it wasn't even historical. We would like a story with Aphrodite set in whichever city it was while she was being a spy for Charles II. I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Sure, I can do that. How hard is that? And it was like I don't know. It was embarrassingly pitched to my interests because I enjoy reading history about female historical figures. Aphrodite was the first professional female English writer who made a living from her writing after she was destitute and stuck in debtor's prison for a while. It was how to get out of it. And she had this fantastical, ridiculous life, which included the Charles II spying, which, went dubiously, but hey, she tried it out. So yeah, I didn't know that was the first 12th Doctor story. I assumed there was going to be like a little series of them. And then I got very scared and worried when I did find out, fortunately after I'd written it, because I thought, oh no, it's going to be terrible and it's the first one and I've ruined it kind of thing, which was, it was lovely. No, people were nice about it, which was very sweet. Someone did fan art and that was the most glorious magical thing that's ever happened. Because, I've been on the other side of that so many times. Like, I don't draw, obviously, but, I do fan fiction. And I know what sort of like the kind of particular fanish love that inspires you doing something like that. So to have that done the other way around was like, oh my goodness, this is brilliant. I'm just like, yay. So that was very cool.
Is there a preference that you have? Do you like writing full cast audio or prose like A Short Trip, or short stories? What do you prefer, and what's the difference in approach?
I was very nervous about writing A Short Trip for audio. I know that you get, obviously there's audible books in that, but for a short story that's going to be on audio and that's its only form of presentation, I felt like there had to be differences between that and writing the prose for it to be on the page. But I was thinking about that without really being entirely sure what those differences were, but it was something that I tried to keep in mind. I don't know if it helped or not, or it was just another way to make me feel worried. In terms of the difference between the two, I find I really enjoy writing prose. You know, the magical dream thing is I do want to be a novelist. The other magical dream thing, I should say, obviously, writing Doctor Who is pretty amazing, and I've discovered that I really do. I really do love writing audio scripts, and the more I do, the more kind of, I don't know, it's that thing where you're developing a skill. And I hope I'm getting better at it. I feel like I am, like I understand what I'm doing. And at first it was like, oh dear God, I don't know what I'm doing. This is terrible and it's going to be a mess. But it gets understanding it better and what you can do with it is really, really cool. And I think it's definitely a medium that the more I do, the more I love it. And I enjoy the sort of different challenges of like, first it was 25 minutes. That's the perfect way to start. It's short, beginning, middle, end. Don't have to worry too much about fitting a lot of stuff in there because there isn't a lot of stuff you can fit in. And then going for a 10,000 word thing, which is, I think it's a nice comfortable amount, an hour's listening. And it's a non-scary, I hate to say shape thing. I know these are all very technical words. It's a non-scary shape thing. And then, but the most challenging so far has been this 4-parter because you've got to consider the entire. Firstly, it's longer, which always makes things for me more difficult. But it's not just the overall story; it's that you've got 4 mini stories within it, which all have to link up and have their own beats as well as the beats of the whole story, which is quite terrifying. And like, oh God, there's so many ways that you can mess it up compared to shorter stuff. At least that's how I look at it. I'm sure there's people who are like, this is horrifying. There's no time in this. How will anything happen? And I think the other style was the 12th Doctor one, which was partly prose and partly scripted, which was I really kind of loved doing just because it was such a, I don't want to say bizarre, but to me it felt, as far as I'm aware, it's a very unusual way to do a thing. It's outside of Big Finish, it's not something that I've ever listened to. Obviously, I've listened to audiobooks and plays, but this combo thing was new. And there were so many restrictions on that in a bunch of ways that it was that was really fun. I think I prefer when I have some of those like rules that it's like it's got to be X thing. It's got to you're only allowed X number of actors or that kind of stuff. Where there are hard limits on certain things you can do because it feels like, I don't know, there's a sort of puzzle box aspect of how can you fit the plot you want to tell into this thing and make it effective, kind of.
So how did you come to write for the monthly range? How did that happen?
For the monthly range, that was Matt Fitton again. He asked if I wanted to do it. He was not horrified by the so it's great expression. Not horrified is how I like to think of my editors when I hand in a draft. That's my low bar for the reaction. He'd had the River Song one for me, and I'd written another thing for him that hasn't come out yet. And he obviously felt, hey, you've done 2 things that aren't awful. How would you like to do this one? So I was like, yay, that sounds great. And so I pitched him a bunch of stuff, tried to get. I generally like to pitch stuff that's set in Scotland. And this time I got to write one that was set in Scotland. So that was yay.
So what were you given? Were you given Doctor Companion? Were you given anything, or you just pitched?
Yeah, Doctor Companion and Brigadier. And
so you always knew it was going to be the Brigadier?
Yes. Yeah.
That must have been pretty exciting considering you're a classic series person.
Yes. And I love Battlefield. My favourite 7th Doctor is Curse of Fenric. And I think that's one of the greatest Doctor stories of all time. But my comfort 7th Doctor pick is Battlefield. Like, that's probably the one I've watched the most just because I put it on and I feel all warm and fuzzy inside and I absolutely adore everything about it, including Mordred's ridiculously long scream of hilarity, which is like, oh yeah. But the vibe between the 7th Doctor and the Brig in that is just, I love it. And there's not enough of it. And I always found that really frustrating. And here I get to do a post-Battlefield thing with more Brig and the Doctor, and I get to take at those relationships there and play with them and make more things happen in them. And that was just like, oh, that's warm and fuzzy. Because it'd be really cool to write like the third Doctor in the Brig or the fourth Doctor in the Brig. But I also have a lot of that on screen, you know, they're right there if I want to see that. Whereas Battlefield's like 2 sodding episodes and there's barely any in it. But the little hints you get are so nice, and the feeling of there's the relationship having moved on and there being a distinct aspect to it here that is different from his vibe with the other Doctors, and yet, you know, not being enough. I think there's be a similar feeling for the fifth Doctor in the Brig. But for me, this is the one that I really would want to explore because, yeah, it's just because Battlefield makes me so fuzzy, basically. But yeah.
So how close was your pitch to what ended up being your finished product?
As far as I can remember, it's pretty much was there. Like it one side, I can't actually remember what was changed or such like. I know I pitched something about Ben McDooey and weird stuff up it. Like the actual pitches is just like a quick paragraph type thing. And after the pitch, you do the full synopsis, which is sort of a point by point. This is everything that happens in the story because the BBC has to approve it. So you don't, it's like suddenly, oh, that sounds fine. And then you get to episode 3 and I don't know, what's something the BBC, I don't know, everyone gets drunk and has an orgy. They wouldn't approve that. But so that's hence why you have to do the synopsis thing. I'm trying to think if anything was changed or anything major. I don't think it was. I think it was just like, it was pacing stuff, I remember. And I don't know, just making stuff clearer and possibly there being, you know, more incident and terrible with making sure enough stuff happens. Basically, I want everyone to sit around and chat for 4 episodes. And apparently this isn't very dramatic, or there isn't enough conflict in it or drama, and people are paying for, you know, things to actually happen, not just cups of teas and, you know, dialogue about how lovely things are. So yeah, it'd be little stuff like that.
It sounds like a beautiful part of the world that it's all taking place in. So is that near where you are?
Oh God, no. Well, it might be too in sort of Australian or American sense, yes. In a Scottish sense, no. It's up in the Cairngorms, which is way up in the north east. I'm hesitating there because I always get east and west mixed up because I get confused. And that's up near sort of Abbeymoor, Inverness area. There are a lot of the Cairngorms, big mountain range. That's where all like our skiing is. Hey, there's a skiing centre mentioned, as far as I can remember. Yeah, but I have been up there. I used to ski a lot, so sort of next door to where it's happening is the bit that I'm familiar with. Wait, I might have actually been to that ski centre. I don't know, but yes, maybe it's possible I've been there. I can't remember. It was quite a while ago, but I'm sort of vaguely aware of that. I have not been up Ben McDooey or Ben Everest or any large mountain in that sense because I'm scared. And it's cold, but I did. It is very beautiful and sort of. I've seen pictures from the top, and they look very pretty. It's also, I'm told, it's very cold up there. Even if you sort of go up in summer, it's like, you know, there's a lot of wind, there's a lot of walking. You feel cut off from civilization. There's no phone signal. These things frighten me. I'm a millennial. I'm broken inside in many ways. But yeah, so other than my own memories of the general area, I talk to people who have obviously been up the actual mountain and ignored things they said that were unhelpful to me. I asked them about monsters up there, and they were, oh yeah, absolutely, a lot of scary stuff. So I do think much of it is accurate, especially with, you know, the sensation of fear and terror and otherworldliness. I'm sort of being sarky there, but I'm really not. Some people were did have mentioned like, yeah, you get a very unsettling feeling. And I think you would if you're at the top of the mountain and mist suddenly came down. That'd be pretty unsettling anyway. But yeah, and the sort of knowledge of the legend would make you extra nervous too. But still, you know, a lot of people are inclined to be like, yeah, I'd rather not be up there when the mist is down, just purely in the sense of I can't see what's there. But yeah, it's there was research done plus vague memories from circa 10 years ago. And it's very, very pretty. And wait, have I said there were monsters up there? There's no monsters up there. This is beautiful touristy Scotland. You should come and see our beautiful mountains. You will not get attacked by any Scottish Yeti because they are a legend, okay? Unless, of course, you're Yeti hunting, in which case they absolutely definitely exist.
It's just you should come and see them.
Yeah.
Isn't half of Scotland's tourism based on a monster in Loch Ness?
Yes and no. I think it's mostly based on whiskey, but a little bit based on Loch Ness.
After you see the monster in Loch Ness.
Yeah, Loch Ness, or you get drunk and then you see the monster.
Perfect.
For some reason. Yeah. But yes, you can also obviously look for Loch Ness, and I'd like to point out for those listening and considering coming to Scotland for monster hunting, Loch Ness is not the only loch in Scotland that has a monster. There are many lochs with their monsters. Please come and visit them all and spend heavily. Please, we need your tourism.
I was going to say, you obviously work for Scottish tourism as well at the moment.
Yes, I'm trying to help. They've paid me to be on this podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Can I just say something about the Brigadier in this story?
Yes.
I found the Brigadier quite relatable because a couple of days before the story came out, my father-in-law was here and we were having a discussion about him retiring because he's at retirement age. He's past retirement age. He's getting a part pension, but he's still working. So we're all talking, saying, actually, you don't need to work. And he sort of very sharply turned to us and said, I want to keep working. I want to keep doing things. And that's exactly what you had the Brigadier doing throughout. So that was great. Also, with the recasting, I was also thinking if you objectively analyze the voice, yes, you can tell it's not Nick Courtney, but if you just go with the story, I don't know what John Coleshaw does, but I could only see Nick Courtney's face throughout that story. How did you feel? How did you feel about the characterization that John Coleshaw did?
I'm sure it was excellent. I don't listen to my stories.
Come on!
I haven't heard your story.
I've never heard any of them.
You're one of those. You're one of those.
I can't. The thing is, if I listen, I will just be horrified that people have read it and acted to it, and I will just flail and panic a lot about it, and I'm just going to hear everything that's wrong with it. I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. I'll just be cursing myself for not having done better. So that's I think that would make it very hard to work on whatever I'm working on at the time when I'm busy thinking about, oh dear God, I'm just gonna, that kind of that's a thing. I'm sure that when
did what I said about John Coleshaw make sense? Did you find that too? Well, let's put Lizbeth to the side here for a second.
Yeah, she does her own stories. Yeah, can I say, John Coleshaw is amazing. The first time I heard him do the Brigadier was him doing the Five Doctors audiobook. And, a number of characters, he just sweeps me away. There were so many lines, it was Nicholas Courtney. Like, I could just, and you're right, I could only picture our Brigadier. The intonations, the breathing, he was just amazing. So, yeah, it's one of the great interpretations. Liz, you have to listen to your story because it's more than just a story. It's the soundscape and it's the music, and you've got to hear what the performers have done with your words. You need to hear what they've done to your words.
I will happily listen to the soundscape and music. That would be delightful. I just don't want to. No, it'll be dreadful. I will listen to it when I'm like 80. That'll be fine.
Well, at least listen to the Five Doctors, so you get John Coleshaw's Brigadier.
I've heard,
or something else with the Brigadier.
I've heard his Third Doctor era one, which is delightful. I have heard his Brig, and I think it's tremendously good. It's just this particular Brig, obviously, is 20 years later. So I'd quite like to hear it, just not in context of something I've written. No.
Okay, well, Liz, I'm going to say shame on you because you need to listen to it because it's actually no longer yours. You've created a piece of work, a creative piece of work. You've handed this piece of work to other people now, and they've now added and compounded it. So you need to listen to it, not because it's yours.
I'm
because
sure they've
it
made it
stopped
much,
being
much
yours
better.
now.
Yes,
The actors have now taken it, and they've taken your words, and they've interpreted the words their way. And in fact, you probably even wouldn't recognise large parts of it because of how the actors have taken and the director have taken the work and they've reworked your words. So yeah,
I think that's fair.
So yeah, so you should listen to it because you should hear what someone else has done with your creative work and how they've added and put their own creative spin on it. It's about being a creative. You know, you're such a writer.
I can see visually Liz nodding her head, but inside I can see her shaking her head.
No, it's a no. I know she's not going to do it.
I was so transparent.
So does that mean you didn't attend? This one was recorded during lockdown, right? So
yes,
I think so. You didn't attend any of those sessions at all?
No. I have alas not been able to attend any of the Big Finish sessions. I think basically it's a 350-mile trip down to London and back, and trains are. Yes, I know. Australians are like, really? That's like a day's outing.
So I was in England recently, and we have friends who live in Edinburgh. And so we just popped up for the weekend. So we just hired a car. We drove up to Edinburgh. We spent the weekend with them, and they laughed at us because they'd been living in Edinburgh for 10 years, and they'd had no family or friends come and visit them from London because it was too far away.
Yeah.
and we just popped in a car and driven up there. It's just like, yes, we're Australian. It's just what we do. But
it's us. Yeah.
That's not far. We do that sort of trip every month.
And there is no way. I don't like driving. There's no way in heck I'm driving to London. That would be just I'd explode internally. It's a long trip to me. So I haven't done it.
So there was no opportunity to join the Zoom?
Yes.
Or however they did it?
There was a Zoom for parts of the cast. But that would have. See, the other thing is this would involve
you wrote it,
hearing. So. Yeah. So
you would have heard your words.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I would. And I'm not entirely sure it would have given a very professional view if this would have happened during a lot of the recording. So sorry, you couldn't see my gesture there, but it was me hiding on my desk a little bit. So I want to feign professionalism for as long as I possibly can.
Till you found out.
Till I am found out, and they're like, "Oh dear Lord, we've made a terrible mistake here. I'm so sorry."
I just want to raise one more point about the Brigadier, the characterization of the Brigadier. One thing, and I could be overanalyzing this as a Anorak fan. Please forgive me if I am. But what I noticed about the Brigadier was that level of suspicion that he had towards the Doctor, which is interesting because the Brigadier's character started out with someone who had suspicion thrown against him. Was that something that you weaved into the story, or is that just something completely out of the air that I'm plucking out?
No, that's interesting. No, it wasn't.
It's almost like he's come full circle.
Yeah, no, I see it now. You've said it, and obviously I'll be taking credit from that from now on. But no, that was not in my mind of the sort of as a thingy to the Web of Fear at all, which is a shame because obviously that makes sense. The suspicion, if I recall correctly, was more there because the Brig felt that the Doctor was coming in on his turf, as it were, and he didn't need the Doctor there to do this now, and he didn't like he'd played the Watson role. I think it was more interaction from season 7, where the Brig is very much Watson to the Brig to the Doctor's Holmes, and here it's like the Brig feels I'm Holmes now. Why are you here? I don't need you. but in a lovely Brig-like way, he feels that he is capable of handling a threat by himself, and
so it wasn't a cleverly weaved arc throughout the decades. It just came down to testosterone.
Well, I wouldn't put it like that. I think legitimate pride not pride, but legitimate understanding of like who he is and his own abilities and his awareness of himself. I think, sort of. I don't know. See, I worry. This is why I worry about talking about things, because it's like, it's like, what the dickens are you saying? None of that was there. But yeah, no, alas. But I will be saying that's the case from now on. So
yes, do that. That's a good idea.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Can I, having now chatted with you for a while, is there a bit of you and Kirsty, the character?
Oh, thank you, but also no. Kirsty is definitely not based on. She's not going to listen to the podcast. So it's fine. Kirsty's named after my sister, called Kirsty, and may share. Oh God, am I anything like my sister? That's terrible. But her favorite companion is Ace. So when she heard I was doing a Seventh Doctor and Ace story, she was very excited. So I inquired as if she wanted to be in it. By Tuckerizing her, and she was like, "Oh my God, yay, that's so exciting," kind of thing. So my sister she gets very annoyed now when I say she's not a Doctor Who fan. She just likes Doctor Who. She now insists she's a Doctor Who fan, but she hated it when we were growing up together because I would constantly monopolize the television watching Doctor Who. But she clearly absorbed enough of it that she's like, she has her favorites, which are Ace and Jo Grant, I might add. So Jo Grant traditionally undervalued, but yeah, and I tricked her coming into Gallifrey 1 now, so she's I'm no longer allowed to say not a fan. But yeah, so she was very delighted by that. She has listened to it, and yeah, that was Yefel. So I'm appalled that you would suggest that, but now also really worried.
Well, in terms of, hey, I don't know you very well. It's a short conversation we've had, but just in terms of Kirsty's, she's confident she tries things, but then she ends up not being sure she can do it anyway, and doesn't recognise her own talents and abilities.
Oh no! I revealed too much accidentally. The most terrifying thing of being a writer is because there's something of you in all the characters because you're writing them, so you're always revealing something. But you have to, but it's always scary. It's like, what if you reveal the wrong thing, or what if you reveal too much? And now they think I'm a crazy serial killer person who's doing something weird with the bodies, kind of thing. When you're not. Obviously.
I haven't read that yet. What piece of writing is that? Is that coming up, is it?
No, they didn't let me write that one. I also pitched this one. I wanted to do Sonny Bean, who is a famous Scottish cannibal. And I was told the BBC will not enjoy cannibalism. Even though, and it was pointed out, yes, I know it happened in Doctor Who already, which was the point I'd have made, but it doesn't matter. There's no more cannibalism in Doctor Who, which is very sad, obviously.
Yes,
not sad.
Being Scottish, and that being an important part of you.
It's a folklore thing, and I was like, because it's not suitable. I was 12 years old, and our English class assignment was, okay, everyone write a short story about Sonny Bean and his family, and I have to have he's like married to his sister or something, and they go out hunting and eat people, and we were 12 years old, and we all had to write a short story about this. So I mean, Scottish education system, and I thought it'd be weird and scary and stuff, but too scary, too far. Ooh,
it was done for Torchwood, something similar to that.
Okay.
Not an audio.
Duly noted.
No, true non-audio, you're right. So you see, are you able to tell us anything else that's coming up that you've been writing, or not?
No, they'd yell at me if I did that. Well, not yell at me, judge me harshly. Yeah, no, I can't think of anything. No, I can't say anything because nothing's been announced.
You ask this of every single writer that comes on. Why do you keep trying? One day you're going to get someone to crack, are you?
Yeah, I keep hoping they'll stop it by accident.
I can say I've had, I think 3 have been recorded, but one of them isn't out until like 2024 or something. So.
Okay, so that's a Tom Baker then.
Sounds like a Tom Baker to me.
Or David Tennant, because he's getting ahead of himself too.
And you're wrong on both accounts. So
well, there you go.
There's one actually that was recorded last year, in summer last year. It's like I have no idea when it's coming out. They won't tell me, sort of thing. So it's kind of exciting. I kind of like it. It's like you've got a few in the bank, as it were, and it's a surprise. When is it? One of the lovely things, the irregular things about Graham Imagine is I was told this is when it's coming out, which was like, ooh, that's nice. A release date before I've written it, which was kind of just novelty value. And it is like when I find out when they're released because someone tweets it at me. I don't know when they're out. So that's that's as detailed information I can give as stuff coming out. There you go, genius, not
Brilliant.
genius, just. Oh God, maybe I've said too much. No one's going to yell at me because I said that, are they?
No, no one even know you've said anything.
I was listening to you on Verity a couple of days ago, and you were talking about this story. And you said you had been a huge fan of the monthly range for the last 20 years.
Yes.
And with it coming to an end, what a thrill it must be for you to have the last Seventh Doctor adventure in the
last Seventh Doctor one. Oh my goodness!
In the monthly range, yeah.
I
mean, the Seventh Doctor's going to appear again, but it's going to be a multi-Doctor story.
Yes, I knew that. Wow! Oh my God! I didn't realize that. I didn't think of that.
You got in just in the nick of time.
I did think about that. That was like such a big thing to me. In that I'd been listening to these. When did I listen to them in '99? I don't know. I've been listening since like 14 years old. And I was absolutely obsessed with them for many years, and I've got the first 150 odd. I've listened to the first 200-ish, I think. I mean, 150 odd in physical doodah form before they did the handy thing of making me not dedicate ridiculous amount of shelving to them. And it has dropped off over the years. Just because these had more and more stuff come out, and my obsessive ranges at the moment is I love the Jacqueline Master stuff and the River Song stuff and the Missy stuff. Those are the ones that I keep up with because you're familiar with Big Finish output. That's a lot of listening time, and I simply I don't have that kind of time anymore as I did when I was a teenager. And so these were a huge part of my Doctor Who fandom of my early years, and for 2000 2005 this was Doctor Who, the only Doctor Who, I don't say proper Doctor Who, but, these were the new adventures happening. This was my continuation of Paul McGann, because I never really connected with the NAs or the PDAs, not PDAs, the EDAs. So that this worked for me, and just that entire area of fandom and the discussions about these and all that stuff, so many lovely formative memories wrapped up as well in the whole discovering fandom and communities and friends, and so the idea of writing one myself at that point was just completely not a thing, because it just I didn't even think of it like that. It just was an impossible idea. And then at the very end, to have been able to contribute to a range that meant so much to me is just, I don't even know. It's just this bizarre, magical, ridiculous thing. It just seems so incredibly unlikely. And yet I did. And it's just oh my goodness. I mean, sometimes I sit here and I don't know, I waffle about writing, and I'm because I get very self-conscious and nervous talking about my own work, because I don't know, it's it's not like I don't take it seriously. I do, but I just find it very difficult to talk about it, I guess. And but when I step back and think about what I'm getting to write at the moment and who I'm getting to write for, and because I have adored this series my entire life, and to be able to contribute little parts to this universe, it's just, what, really? And it's not like I can say they're going to, it's all going to magically disappear, because some of these have been done. This has been made. It happened, and they said words. I wrote. They acted them. They made an adventure story, and it's what? Really?
But I'll never listen to it.
I could look at it. I could look at the background. And I know it exists, and other people tell me it exists. And it's just it's bizarre. It's utterly freaking bizarre. But yeah, I don't know what the question was there. Wait, yes, the main range, the last Seventh Doctor. What? That's So the feeling of it is I get this sort of weird fizzy feeling in my limbs of, oh my goodness, it's magic, but in reality kind of thing. It's just I so often want to go back and be able to tell my 12-year-old self, that, hey, guess what? You'll get to do one day. And just she'll call me a liar, which is rather mean. But yeah, it's just, it's so weird. So very weird.
We're going to do a celebration for the end of the monthly range in a couple of months' time. So we'll probably actually grab some of what you just said and replay that or use it for that. Just in terms of monthly range stories that you remember had an effect on you, your go-to. What are your favorite monthly range stories?
Oh, okay. My absolute favorite bit of the monthly range is the Perry and Aramem stuff. I freaking adore that run of stories, like, insanely. That is, if anyone ever asks me for ask me for classic Who Rex, and I'll sort of go, just, read a little bit of the synopsis, whatever sounds fun to you, go watch that. Basically, because that's how I did it. I read the back of VHS, whatever sounded cool, pick that. If I'm asked for Big Finish Rex, every single time it will be, Eye of the Scorpion, absolutely have to start there, and then just go through that range, because God, Perrimem's so underrated. And then the magical thing is, Perry suddenly goes from being, I quite enjoy her. I don't hate that sixth Doctor Perry dynamic on the telly. I understand the arguments for why it's not, great or anything, but I'm okay. I like them arguing. It's fine. But Perry with Aramem, suddenly Perry is this amazing companion, and they've got this cool relationship, and the way they play off each other, the complete dynamic of princess from ancient era and American student from 20th century, and the bond they have, and the kind of their perspectives and the way they intersect, it's amazing. And I think that also has one of the highest hit ratios of truly top-notch Big Finish stories. I mean, I love Eye of the Scorpion, Church in the Crown, The Kingmaker is actually my favorite of all Big Finishes still, The Council of Nicaea, Son of the Dragon, and this is the terrible, terrible thing. I am told The Bride of Peladon is very, very good. I haven't listened to it yet because
you don't want to believe she's left.
Yes, I'm still angry that they left. It's been 10, 15 years now.
It's very good.
I'm still not over it. One day, I will do a re-listen of them all.
What about Necromantia? What do you feel about that one?
I can't recall anything about it. It's I kind of listened to it for 15 years, so I don't know. I'm sure it's very good.
They treat Aramem dreadfully in that she gets beaten up, and they suggest she's raped in it. It's a pretty bleak story, actually. That's the one that often fans think where they went a bit too far.
I did do an episode on that before you joined me, Philip. Do you remember?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. That's what was in my head.
Yep. Council of Nicaea, that's probably my favourite in that era.
I'll tell Caroline.
Love a good historical, plus that particular era is something I'm personally interested in. So, yeah.
Oh, and I the Scorpion. And the fact that Peter Davison rests for the entire episode, he just gets knocked out, he's not in the whole episode, like the William Hartnells of old.
A bit of classic 60s nostalgia.
It was brilliant. And you just didn't need him for a whole episode, but he passes out at the end of one episode and we get into the start of the next one. It was just classic William Hartnell stuff. We'll just write him out for one episode, doesn't matter.
Clearly he needed a little break in the recording studio,
Well, listen, Liz, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Your coffee hopefully kicked in enough for you to keep going.
Thank you very much for listening to me, and I'm sure it was all very deep and intelligent and insightful and everything that you wanted for your podcast.
It was brilliant.
I shall take your word for it.
But I really do want you to listen to the rotten episode. And I'll be harassing you on Twitter till you do, just so you know.
Normally what we do is we put recommendations of something that we've been listening to recently. Doesn't matter. It can be Doctor Who related, not related, music, any kind of sort of listening art form. Is there anything that you've been listening to recently that you could recommend to us?
That is an extremely good question that I'm now struggling quickly to think.
We know you haven't been listening to your Big Finish material.
That's true. Well, last night I was listening to well, not last night, last yesterday afternoon, not last. Why is it last night? But yesterday afternoon, I was listening to the Chimes of Midnight, Rob Shearman, classic of the early Big Finish years, and for podcast listening. But it's also, I know, for many people around this time of year, a traditional listen in the December months. For it is a beautiful Christmas tale of delights, Edwardian delights, and plum pie, and
murder and mayhem,
mysterious plunger murders, and various other things. And it's just an absolutely marvelous play. And I've heard it a whole bunch of times, but it's still, it's still got its magic. And I don't know, I find it, if you've listened to Big Finish at all, I suspect you've listened to Chimes of Midnight. But if I must wreck something in the Big Finish range outside of Perry and Aramam, if I'm forced to do so, then but I'm sure this as well, you Doctor Who listeners, oh my god, I'm talking on a Doctor Who audio podcast as well. I've just realized, of course they're going to know Rob Shearman's plays in Big Finish are brilliant. You all know that, you don't need me to tell you, but I've reminded you helpfully of it. But yeah, Chimes of Midnight is pretty amazing. And where
are we going to be able to hear your thoughts on that particular story?
I shouldn't have said this. I sort of crashed and burned last night, so I had to drop out of the podcast. So you're not going to. I'm sorry, I was exhausted last night, so I had to apologize to my Verity cohorts and say, I'm so sorry, guys. I can't. I will just be. I mean, if you think I've been confused, it's like what I've been now, except just not able to say the words actually out loud because I'm just thinking. In my defense, I've been sleeping very badly this week and I feel really guilty. So, oh God. But now you know my thoughts. It's pretty gosh darn great, and everyone should, I hate saying this because, not Aramon, but if you want to understand how great Big Finish can be, it's a very good place to sort of jump on and have a look-see. And see if that's your sort of thing. Again,
so anyone listening to Verity wants to get your thoughts on the Chimes of Midnight, we'll just put a link to this podcast.
Yeah,
and they can listen to your thoughts here. Awesome, thank you.
It's okay, it's fine. I'll try to actually remember to get them to next episode I'm on. I will say, could we put a links to Sirens of Audio in the show notes, please? Because that's that's where I podcast now.
I wouldn't talk to you guys, but I'd talk to them.
Please let none of them listen to this. Oh no, it's okay. I'm only trying to take away 5 of your possible listeners here, so it's fine. It's fine.
What have you been listening to, Dwayne?
I've been doing music the last couple of episodes, and the next episode too, I'm going to be doing music. So it's starting to get a bit repetitive now, but I'm going to do it again because this year I've been doing a bit of nostalgia, looking back into the 80s and the 70s, sort of my era of music. But I've picked up some brand new music that has affected me more than anything else. And I've talked about this artist before, but it's Stephen Wilson. And he's got a new album coming out in January, but he's released a couple of singles. So I'm going to recommend the single called King Ghost. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but if you type in King Ghost by Stephen Wilson into YouTube, you'll find it. It actually moved me to goosebumps and tears. There you go, the most beautiful piece of music I've heard in years. What about you, Philip?
Well, I'm going to recommend a podcast. So I've started listening to Toby Hadoke.
I thought you were going to say Verity.
No. The Verity podcast list is all coming here now, remember? So there's no point recommending Verity.
We can send them back.
Yeah. So if you come from Verity, go back there. It's a good podcast, and Liz will get back on board soon, and she'll hold it together. But in the meantime, Toby Hadoke has, many people know, has done a whole series of stuff for Big Finish, actually, in terms of all the interviews. But he decided to get busy, and he's doing 3 different podcasts, all sort of interlinked. The one I'm going to talk about is Indefinable Magic. I was listening to today. He just picks a topic and talks about it, and he's talking about carrots today.
I noticed that pop up in my feed.
The poor guy, just talking about the Sixth Doctor and their famous last words, and Colin Baker, due to unfortunate circumstances.
His last word wasn't carrot; it was juice.
Oh, you're right. Carrot juice, wasn't it? I think he says it 3 times. Poor man. Thank goodness Big Finish has made up for him with much better stuff. So Toby's just talking about the whole history of carrots in Doctor Who, as you would, and just the history of carrots. He's just started doing a whole new series. He's also got one of the other podcasts he's doing is just, I'm trying to think what it's called, but in minute detail, he's doing episode by episode of Doctor Who. And the first one on just the, actually before the first episode was what's it called? The one that they mucked up, the prologue.
Pilot? The original pilot?
Thank you, the original pilot. And I think he talks for an hour on the pilot. So, I mean, I guess it's a lot to start with. There's a lot to talk about at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I do wonder when he gets to the massacre, episode 3, it might only be 5 minutes long, but we'll see what he can come.
Plenty of history to talk about there.
Actually, you're right.
You can go into lots of detail about the French religious wars,
Maybe the space music. No. Well, actually, we're Doctor Who people. We can all talk underwater, can't we?
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's give me any Doctor Who episode, I dare say, and I could talk about it longer than the episode itself. I feel very proud of that ability.
So that's my recommendation for this time.
Fantastic, Philip. And I've just noticed my background. Have you noticed how my head has fit perfectly into the Seventh Doctor's face? And now I'm part of the picture.
Yes, I do.
Not quite, but okay.
Oh, you fill me with such confidence. One day I'm going to hit end meeting on this thing and you'll never see me again, Philip. Dear, oh dear. All right, thanks so much, Lizbeth. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a delight.
From Big Finish Productions.
You are here to rescue us in a coffin.
Correct. Your alternative is the sharp embrace of Madame la Guillotine.
You're him, aren't you?
Oh, him? Yeah. Well, yes, I suppose I am. Yeah. You are currently being rescued by the Scarlet Pimpernell.
Doctor Who, Plight of the Pimpernel.
Excuse me! Come on! Excuse me! Please! Get out of the way!
Excuse yourself. What's the rush?
A killer android's chasing me. I'd hide if I were you.
That is flower, isn't it?
A Pimpernel. A Scarlet Pimpernel. On orders from Citizen Robespierre, I will hunt this Pimpernel, and I will bring him here to the scene of his crime to make the acquaintance of Madame la Guillotine.
Positive recognition. Scarlet Pimpernel. Justice will be done.
How is it that Sir Percy Blakeney is here at all? How is it that we are tending to a fictional character?
Doctor, we've been over this.
The Scarlet Pimpernel and his alter ego, the poppish Sir Percy Blakeney, I adore them both. But they are creations of the novelist Baroness Orczy. So how are they both bedbound in the east wing of this stately home?
Big Finish. We love stories.
Well, wasn't that a lovely discussion we had with Lizbeth?
It was a lot of fun. So I think she had fun too.
That's good. Hey, listen, we're going to quite a considerable length again, as we keep saying that we're going to shorten our podcast lengths, but we don't. But there is something, because we had so many Big Finish releases this week, I think we should mention the other monthly release for this month, which is Plight of the Pimpernel, written by Chris Chapman. I do recall from things that I'm pretty sure I've heard in the past that Colin Baker has said that he wanted to do a historical set during this time with the Scarlet Pimpernell. I remember him saying that before. I don't know where, but it's in my memory. So it's not something that's new to me. So it's not unexpected. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, he actually says it in the at the end of the episode where he's being interviewed.
In the extras.
In the extras.
But I do recall it from a long time ago. Anyway, Plight of the Pimpernel. I really loved it. I love this particular story because the story of the Scarlet Pimpernell I love. I've got a really close affection to the 1934 film with Leslie Howard. Leslie Howard had a major role in Gone with the Wind. So just after Gone with the Wind, he must have been not long after that he made this version of the Scarlet Pimpernell. And I remember watching this with my dad, and we were really chuckling about, we seek him here, we seek him there, those Frenchies seek him everywhere. And so I've always had a soft spot in my heart for this particular story. And I really loved it. I liked the way it seemed that Colin Baker really enjoyed this particular part and threw himself into it. I thought it was fantastic. What about you?
It's probably one of my favourite monthlies this year. It was interesting when it started, because the story started and I was pretty sure it wasn't history. I was thinking, I'm sure this is a story. It's not actually history that has happened. And of course, it's not history. It's just a story. And then it gets explained later on. So I was confused at the beginning, thinking it's feeling like it's true history when I didn't think it was. And then I thought I was doubting myself. I think the thing I enjoyed so much about this was Colin and Nicola and the way the Doctor and Perry work together, because they're just having so much fun together. One of the things about the TV series, which I think the writers struggled with, was letting those two actually enjoy each other's company. You see a bit of it in Mysterious Planet, but for most of the time that they're on TV together, it's a bit of a narky relationship and that. Whereas this was just such a wonderful, joyous friendship. And the way they treat each other, the way they tease, it was just lovely. So for me, just having Colin and Nicola doing beautiful work together and being written really well was what I really enjoyed about this story. The whole story was great, but those two, I just love them together and love them when they're just working so nicely like that.
And I love the fact that they're all these different accents that they're putting on as well. Nicola sounds great with an English accent too.
And
I love the art. Yes, I love the artwork on the cover. It's a beautiful cover. The artwork's just it's just been fantastic. I actually prefer it with the full page artwork, with the new logo across the top, rather than that. Or if you've got the hardcover, you can flip it around with the classic logo, but they're using the full page rather than having that sidebar down the left-hand side of the page. I really like the full cover artwork, which is a bit of a side point as far as the audio drama goes, but I like the whole package, and that artwork full cover is really nice.
The cover of an audio really matters because it's what catches your eye and helps you visualize what happens with just the voices. So, and I agree. I think the step up in covers in the last 12 months has been astounding. I mean, the Grey Man of the Mountain too. That cover is another magnificent cover. So much detail, intricate little detail. I've really been enjoying the covers. I've been seeing a few of them being released totally clean on Twitter because they're beautiful pieces of art. I actually wouldn't mind owning some of them as artworks.
Mm. Yes, they certainly are nice. Usually the artists themselves are releasing clean covers around the time that the CDs are released. If you go and have a look on Twitter for the name of the artist, oftentimes they'll release a clean cover, which is really, really nice. Really nice background, which you can't see now, but I've got Grey Man of the Mountain on me now, with my face in place of Sylvester McCoy. So, yeah, There you go. It's lovely.
Looking great.
Oh, thanks, Philip. You've said something nice about me.
Oh, Dwayne, you're a wonderful human being. I love being with you all the time.
All right. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. Drop us some feedback and like and...
rate and review us.
That's it. Not like. You can like us too if you like or not, but whatever you do, rate and review us because that's the way we'll get seen. So next we can actually announce what's coming next week because it's in the can. So next episode we're going to have a special guest. Ross Aitken from the Gallifrey's Most Wanted podcast is going to be joining us, and we're going to be dealing with 2 stories. From one from the very classic era. We're going to be talking about Rob Shearman's Jubilee, the story that the new series episode Dalek was based on. We're also going to be talking about the Angel of Scutari, and we had a really good conversation which we're going to be able to share with you next time on the Sirens of Audio. Looking forward to that.
It'll be great.
So until you hear from us again, listen to lots of lovely audio because... Why is that, Philip?
Because audio rocks.